Now on Denver 7 News, chaos at the state capitol. A look at some of the last bills left before the legislative session ends.
Blood test could be a tool for diagnosing Alzheimer's disease earlier in the future. The work happening now on this. And it's a place most people never get to go inside of. We're going behind the scenes in the facility that's working to protect the hundreds of plants across the U.S. that are threatened or endangered.
Plus, a major defeat for abortion rights after a key vote in the U.S. Senate fails.
On this vote.
Thank you for joining us for Denver 7 News at 4. I'm Jacqueline Allen. Today is the last day of the state legislative session, and dozens of bills are up for debate with just hours left. One of those bills that we are watching closely is the fentanyl bill. Last night, the House rejected a version that had been approved by the Senate, so it now heads to a conference committee to see if they can hammer out a final version. Another bill would help address the hospital staffing shortages like we saw during the height of the pandemic. This bill requires every hospital to create a committee to come up with a nursing staffing plan. That plan would be sent to the state and posted online. There are also two environmental bills. The first is called the Producer Responsibility Program for Recycling. It would require any company that sells products in Colorado to pay for a statewide recycling program. It would also give incentives for producers to use recycled products. The second environmental bill aims to make new homes and buildings more energy efficient. The state would have to come up with new energy codes by 2025 that comply with international standards. Colorado lawmakers are getting closer to appropriating nearly $1 billion sent to our state through the American Rescue Plan Act. There are several bills that would use those funds to address issues such as behavioral health and housing. One bill that has already been approved is House Bill 1281. This bill allows local governments and nonprofits to apply for $90 million in grants to create behavioral health programs, especially for children and families. Annie Hancock with the Denver Housing Authority says this is a bill they're closely looking at, especially in this post-pandemic world.
One of the gaps that we're always recognizing in our current service models is access to mental health services and behavioral health services. So when we see opportunities that are coming, whether it's from the federal, state, or local level, we're always looking at those and how can we partner with organizations.
Coming up on Denver 7 News at 6, see what other bills are being funded by the American Rescue Plan Act and the impact they could have here in Colorado. For the second year in a row, Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters will not be allowed to run her county's elections. Yesterday, a judge removed Peters as Mesa County's designated official for this year's primary and general elections. Peters, who is running for the Republican nomination for Secretary of State, is facing charges related to tampering with her county's elections equipment. Now, the judge appointed Brandy Bantz, the county elections director, to oversee elections instead. Now to the national fight for abortion rights. The Women's Health Protection Act, a bill that would cement abortion rights into federal law, has failed in the U.S. Senate. The final tally was 49-51, with West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin joining Republicans. Manchin says he would support a federal abortion law, but that this bill is too broad. The bill needed 60 votes to avoid a GOP filibuster. Two Republican senators who are pro-choice also voted against the bill. Instead, Senators Susan Collin and Lisa Murkowski introduced their own abortion rights bill. Abortion rights groups have slammed that bill, saying it does nothing to protect the right to abortion if Roe v. Wade is overruled. Now, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has refused to bring that particular bill to a vote.
Mixed news on the latest numbers on consumer prices out today. Overall, inflation did slow down last month after 7 months of steady growth, and that could mean price increases are starting to peak from the 4-decade high we hit back in March. But there are some warning signs that it may still be a while before things cool down. Because when you take out energy and food prices, which are the main drivers of inflation, you still see larger monthly increases for things like housing, cars, hotels, and airfare. More expensive and crowded flights are one reason people are less happy with airlines. Ticket prices are about 20% higher than they were pre-pandemic. J.D. Power, which measures consumer satisfaction, found travel satisfaction is dropping across the board. It's down more than 20 points from last year's report. JetBlue, Southwest, and Delta ranked the highest. Meanwhile, airlines and the Transportation and Security Administration are preparing for bigger crowds this summer. The TSA says it has volunteers on standby who can move around to work at the most crowded airports. They expect crowds to be close to where they were before the pandemic.
We turn now to some breaking news. A heavy police presence in Denver around an apartment building near 11th and Logan. You are looking live at the scene right now from Air Tracker 7. Denver police tell us they are trying to find a wanted suspect. It appears that part of Logan is closed, but otherwise police say there are no other traffic closures. We will be sure to bring you the very latest updates on this situation as it develops right here and on the denverchannel.com. Changes are coming to the Adams 14 school district after the district presented its improvement plan. The state school board decided yesterday to strip that district's accreditation and say that it has to reorganize. The first step is creating an organization planning committee to come up with a new plan for the district. That committee will be run by an outside management company, and the public will be allowed to provide public feedback on any plan it creates. This reorganization process is expected to take more than a year, so nothing will change right now.
We ain't going anywhere. Our superintendent, our leadership team, our school board, we came into this knowing this wouldn't be easy. Turnaround never is. What they care about is my school going to be there next year? The answer is yes. Are the teachers that I know and trust going to be given the opportunity to do their job? The answer is a categorical yes.
Now, Adams 14 has been struggling for years. The district received the state's two lowest performance ratings since 2010. Its four-year graduation rate has stayed at least 11% below the statewide average since 2011. And since 2008, the district has had 7 different superintendents.
At the beginning of the pandemic, nurses were celebrated as heroes, willing to risk their own lives, often away from their families, to take care of COVID patients. But over the last 2 years, nurses have reported large increases in violence. OSHA found hospitals are of the most dangerous workplaces in the country, and all of that is taking its toll on the profession.
Some of the things that are really concerning about that is we're actually seeing more young nurses who have just entered the profession leave the profession and leave bedside nursing.
Longtime cancer nurse Michelle Larkin now does public policy work with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. We're looking at what's next for the profession as we recognize National Nurses Week. She says while nursing is experiencing its sharpest exit in decades, more people are also applying to nursing schools than they have room for. And the future of nursing is changing, starting in those schools.
We're also making sure that they're building in self-care and helping nurses recognize, what do I need to do for my own well-being, so that I'm prepared as a student through the student experience to be resilient, to also make sure that I know and recognize the signs when I need somebody to help care for me as a nurse.
Future nurses will play an important role in health equity. In a study from the National Academy of Medicine, it mentions the importance of nurse well-being and resilience. It also mentions nurses helping to identify systemic barriers to equitable and accessible care for all.
They're thinking about how you not only meet patients where they are in terms of their background, their culture, but that we make sure that we are giving patients what they need. You know, nurses and nursing schools have work to do there, but they are looking at it and they are starting to develop programs to be able to meet those needs.
Larkin mentioned public policy changes to help alleviate some of that burden that paperwork has on nurses, and also reevaluating how many patients these nurses can effectively take care of at once. In the future, an earlier diagnosis for Alzheimer's could happen with a simple blood test, but there are concerns this could lead to more people being diagnosed than our healthcare system can handle. The work happening now to prepare for that.
Plus, an update on the man who was charged after drawing on a pickleball court, why the state is now dropping the case.